This here is my 1984 Chevrolet C20. It's a C20, it's an oddball C20. It came out factory 305 700R4 transmission. Some of y'all's going to disagree with me. I have the RPO codes to prove it. But I'm not going to show you right now because I want to see how many comments come up saying that this is not a factory 305 3/4 ton C20. See how many people disagree with me. They did make them. I haven't seen very many of them. But in 1984, it was around the fuel crisis and all that. So, what we're going to do to this one, the steering column is loose. 4 bolts in the knuckle back behind it. They're coming loose. They've worked loose. The steering wheel just flops up and down. It's a factory tilt column. They need to pull that all apart, fix that. This truck is one of my trucks that I drive all the time. A lot of people that know me see me drive this truck constantly. I go to the farm. I do stuff with it there. I go run parts. It's just an all-around truck for me. I bought this truck 2 or 3 years ago. I got some pictures I'll post up on here when I picked it up, what it looked like. I did the Comet wash to it. Had a bad engine. The gentleman said it was getting water in the oil. It actually started and ran, and I drove it up on the trailer. He had it sitting in the trees. Not very good pictures when he sold it. So not a lot of people wanted it. It didn't have a dash in it. Didn't have the dash. Didn't have the bezel in it. Engine was getting water in the oil, like I said. Pull the dipstick, and it was just milky. So I get it home, clean it up, pull the engine. This engine that's in this, I built roughly 14 years ago, and it sat on an engine stand and never got used. And I wanted something to put it in. And the body on this truck is pretty straight. Doesn't have much rust on it, if any. The cab corners, rocker panels. It's got the little dent up here. It's got another little dent on the driver's side right in here, which I'm fine with. Tail light's busted out on the driver's side, which I did. Loading and unloading some stuff out of the truck, out of the bed. Windshield's cracked. I need to put a windshield in it. This is one that I'm going to try to do myself. I've got a windshield out of a Suburban that I scrapped out. So I got to fix this column. This column's falling apart. Before it falls completely apart on me and I veer off into a ditch and smash this truck up, I've got to get this column fixed. So that's what this video is going to be about, getting this column fixed. So come along with me. Let's move this truck on over to that side of the shop, and we're going to start working on that column. So let's put this truck on that side of the shop. Okay, it's on that side of the shop. Now we need to start working on it.
Okay, we are going to start on the steering column and the bolts that are back in here. We're going to fix those. Right now this column is loose, so it does this. And then this is all loose also. So there's a spring that should be in there for this. I'm hoping nothing's broke behind this and this collar to where I have to take this collar off. I'm hoping I can just pull these guts out, fix those bolts for this, put this spring back in here on the shifter, and hopefully we'll get this fixed up. Let's grab some tools. Pull the horn button off. It's always good. Get some of these little magnetic trays to put all your screws and stuff in. You're going to need those. Okay, it looks like somebody's already been in this steering column before. There's usually a snap ring right around this area here to wherever, if this nut backs off, it doesn't come completely off. And won't allow the steering wheel to come off there. After the end of this video, I'm going to put all the tools aside that we need. I'm going to leave them out of this kit. and I'll make you a list or go through a list of tools for doing this. So that way if you have to do this, you can grab your tools. You'll know what you need beforehand. I do have some power tools, but for some of these I like to do by hand. Doesn't take too much more time. So, how many people's actually been in these steering columns and done this before? So you'll need a 13/16 socket for the nut on the steering wheel. And then just hold the steering wheel and break the nut loose. And somebody's already been in this one before, it's coming off loose. Now, sometimes they've been off before, you can take the steering wheels and you can pop them like that and they'll come off, but this one won't. And I'm not going to sit here and try and maybe bust myself in the teeth. So I'm going to get a wheel puller. This is not an actual perfect one for doing this, but it will work. Well, one that's already been off, it shouldn't take too much. And there we go. It's already off there. Just down outside. Okay, now here's where you're going to need a special tool. There is a snap ring right in here. You're going to have to push this down and get the snap ring off. For this, you're going to need this special tool here. So, oh, the horn works. So you can take that out. Keep all these pieces together. Hopefully all that works when we get through this. Sometimes you gotta take a pair of pliers to do that. See if I can find where that snap ring starts. Let's get around here to the top and get the pick underneath it. And you got two picks here. And around here where I get it started. Sometimes it takes a little finagling, a little finesse. Once you get it started, you can usually go around it. Sometimes I'll do this with either pick or a flat tip screwdriver. Once you get it started, sometimes you can take a flat tip screwdriver and just come behind it. Pull it up out of there, like so. Now you won't need that tool until you go back together with it. So that piece should spring off of there. Bring it out. Don't lose your snap ring. Snap ring in your magnetic tray if you need to. Remember where it goes. That is for the horn, because the horn button's in one spot. So the steering wheel goes around in a circle. This comes out at the steering wheel. This makes contact right here to this pin, and then you can go in a circle and still make contact with that pin right there. Let's take that spring out. Now, we're gonna have to pull all this out We really need the signal light switch, this is the signal light switch, to come up a little bit. So I may end up having to get up underneath the dash and unplug it so it comes out, because we got to take this whole collar off of here. So first I'm going to take all this loose. I'm going to see how much slack I have to start with and go from there. Hopefully if I've got enough slack, then I don't have to. It's just a Phillips screw in here, small one. Take that loose. And you can take this Phillips screw loose here, which holds this for your signal light. The old columns that didn't have your headlight switch, your dimmer switch here, just had your signal light switch coming right off of this and coming on the column, and then your signal light switch just touched it. Well, this has a lever in here because this is so much bigger and so much heavier. You gotta support it. So this little thing comes out of here. You have to finagle it back in there. In there. You get that loose. Somebody has redone this is the cord for your cruise control. And somebody put a new switch on here, and instead of routing it through there like it's supposed to be, they put it through here. Which, if I can remember, I'll put this all back together. I will route that the way it's supposed to be. Gently pull on this and get that screw out of there so I don't lose it. So now I'm going to gently pull on this and I'll see how much slack I got. I probably don't have enough slack, so I'm going to go underneath here and disconnect it. So you can take all this apart. Alright, I got those loose. I'm hoping that I've got enough room now to bring this out and set it down, because you got to bring this whole collar out. Set it down. Careful with that. And there's a little spring in here that you got to be careful with first. Get that switch out, pull that little spring out. The little spring is going to sit in there. And you put this back together like so. And you're going to slide this back in there. Okay. Okay. And we are ready to get this off. T30. You've got to unscrew your tilt lever. You're going to need it in a second though, and I'll show you why. There's some pieces in here that's going to fall out. We're going to put back together. Once we get this all apart, which is your dimmer switch. So we're on this side. Comes out with that. That's right. It comes out with this plastic piece here. It sits in here. It pushes against a rod over here. I'll show you in just a second. This is going up against this. And that's what pushes your dimmer switch. So don't worry about that. We'll get it put back together. Let's set it off to the side. Okay. Now we got all that out of the way. Our bolts are way loose in here. Well, this rod right here is the rod that pushes against, and it goes down to your switch down there to dim your lights. This is your steering wheel lock. You turn the key all the way off. This pin comes up into your steering wheel, into this actual holder, this piece right here where you put that special tool on to push it down, spring compressor, and that's what did that. See, but this is where your spring is for when you release your tilt. When you pull the button, it springs the steering wheel up. This is the spring. You just take a Phillips screwdriver, you push down on it, and you turn it just like so. And there's two little keepers on here that slide in there, and that's your spring for your tilt. Now, get that off there. Now we have to use our pin remover tool. We got two pins here. We got to pull these pins out. So now we need to get our pin remover tool. Here's our steering wheel pin remover tool. You get them on Amazon, wherever you need to get them at. But there's a pin right here, pivot pin. Put this here. And it's got a threaded hole in it. Make sure it threads in there. Okay. Screw that in there. Quite a ways. And this will sit there. Just start tightening up this nut carefully. And hold the backer on this. Don't get in a hurry and don't get forceful. You can break this tool. Get too big a hurry. If you leave a spring in here, you won't be able to get these pins out very easy. They get stuck in there. It's got pressure against it from that spring pushing against it. Take your time, work it out. we go. There is our spring, our pin, pivot pin. Put that one over there for that side, and I'll do this side. Same way. Go. Now we got the pins out. Now we need to get this off here. This rod, I've been able just to pull them out with it and then put them back in here. Some people like to finagle it through, which you can. There's a gap here, so you don't have to get it lined back up in here. It's got a little recess in there, which it'll come out through. So this might take a little bit of finagling to get this off, so. There we go. There's the bearing race. So it's got the bearing holder and this race. The bearings are awful dry. So you can bring that around and get it off of that rock. Oh, these bearings just fell apart. That is not what I wanted to happen, but that happens. So we will pick up all those bearings, hopefully find all the little beads, all the little balls. We will have to put that bearing back together. See if I can find them right quick. Hopefully you can find them all. We'll count them, we'll clean that up in a minute. So if you can see in here, we can get y'all in here now. So if you see, right there is the bolts that are loose. That one's actually backed all the way out, you can see it. So we're going to get that. And then this piece right here is what your starter switch or key switch pulls back and forth. Your ignition switch is down inside your column. This goes on the nub sticking out right there. And it'll pull that back and forth. So let's see if we can get one of these bolts out right quick. I'm going to Loctite. Well, I need to check this out. I want to get this fixed. Get my hand out of the way. I want to get this spring fixed and all this in here. So I'm going to look at all that right quick and see what all I got to do to fix that. Get that fixed. We'll get in here and look at it. I may have to knock the pin out of that. And then the spring is still in there, so what has happened here? I'm afraid my spring down in there might have broke, so I'm going to knock this pin out. I'm going to knock the pin out on this other one and get that spring out and see if that spring is busted. If that spring's busted, I'm going to get my other spring off my other column and put it in there. Well, I think I'm going to have to find a spring, because the spring, get out of the other column, in pretty bad shape. So I'm going to definitely have to find a spring, but let me look in here and make sure that is good. So what I got. Looks like this piece of this column is actually busted, so I'm gonna have to go outside and take the bolt loose and pull this shaft out. This knuckle is on. And then once I get this shaft out, I can pull this collar off of here and see if it's busted. See how bad it's busted. Okay, what I did was I went on the outside and there's one bolt that goes through the shaft that goes down through the rag joint. I took that bolt out, and now that allows this to come up out of here. Just like so. And we got that out. Now we need to get this off. Come on, baby. There it is. Okay, so this is like a reverse Torx bolt. So it's a E. E8. So it takes those loose. And these are just hand tight. Let's see about these. Yep. They're still in there, but they were hand tight. What about this last one? Oh, it was loose. Okay. Now this should come off of here like so. Get that rod out. I'll have to line that rod back up, but the reason I pulled this out is this is busted right here. And I wanted to see how bad and see if this is broke. Let me see if this is going to be an issue. So it is cracked, it is busted, but I think it should be alright. What we're going to do, this stays put, so I remember the gear shifter got hung up, came out of this slot because this was so loose, and it got hung in there, and that's what probably caused that to break. But as long as this is tight, gear shift lever should stay in here, and we should be fine.
Okay, I've got a good spring on here. I'm going to put this back together. Get the gear shifter put back in there. And that way this is all back together. And start putting these bolts in. So we'll set the spring in here. Like so. And get this lined up. Get it all back together like so. Okay, on these 4 bolts, I'm going to use red Loctite. If you think you might be pulling these back out, for any reason, I would go with something different than red. Possibly the blue. But I'm hopefully not going to have to pull this back apart. So I'm going to go with red. So I do believe we are ready to put this back together. Got all that back in there. So we get all that seated, that'll be back together. Oops, fell on my pants. Just put your little Loctite on the threads and run them back in there. This will keep them from backing back out again. And you have to go back in here and do this again. Just make sure that you've got everything ready to do this before you put these in here, because you only got a little bit of time. You have to look at the package and see the amount of time you actually have if you put that in there. So kind of in a cross pattern. Get it pulled down in there real good, even. Don't just go torque down on one of them without running these down in there like that. That collar can cock off a little bit and get out of alignment. So now I start getting these tight. And we want to get them extremely tight. We don't want them backing back out again. Okay. Those are tight. They got Loctite on them. Now, need to put the shaft back in. And go outside. And I had a bearing on this end. We need to put that bearing back on and get this all lined back up. Shaft back in here. Push down on that spring to get it to where you need it. It's kind of a pain sometimes to get this to line up properly with the spring and everything. There we go. All right. Now, we got that. We are going to have to rebuild this bearing. Make sure I got all the balls. Yep. So I was able to find them all. So I do all have them all in here. So let me take them out of here. Let me get them all cleaned up. See if I can get these cleaned up. Okay. We're going to have to grease this up. I feel this can get to be a dirty job. Got all those in there. Now we need to put them in here. Drop down in there just like so. Get in there where it's supposed to go. Okay. Now, stab all this back together. Not yet. Oh yeah, maybe it did. Okay. So that seemed to have went to where it's supposed to go. Let's see if we can get it all the way in there now. And that's still right. Okay. Pin just needs to go just a little bit up and in. See if we can stab that pin in there. There's that one. Okay. A little grease on it again. See if this one will go. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Now let's check this. Okay, that's working. Put a dab of grease on here. Now, put this other bearing together. Put it in there. Pack a little bit more grease in there. Okay. You got that keeper that goes on there also that pushes against that bearing and that spring. So that's all going back on the steering column. Let's tap these pins back in here. There's that one. Try not to tap in those threads just in case you got to pull them back out. I kind of hit that one in the center by accident, but there's that one's all the way in there. Okay. That still works and functions. Woohoo, I did it. Shouldn't have done that. Hope I didn't lose my bottom bearing. Okay. This back in here. It's a little bit where it goes on that deal down there. Really don't need that much grease, but I'll put that much grease on it. And then just reverse the process. Take a Phillips screwdriver. Push it down in there, turn it until it stops. And now we got the spring locked in there. Now we're gonna have the fun part. Since we got this out, I'm gonna line it up. We'll put that one down in there where it's supposed to go, even though I don't have cruise control. We'll run it back with all these wires again. Should go to the bottom side. Should work there. Okay. Now, you're gonna have to push all these in here. I need this piece and this. Okay. Well, that is back together. These bolts back in here so this stays tight. Okay. Now, key switch. Oh. I forgot I gotta put this bolt in first. That doesn't make sense, but okay. I don't like doing it that way. Rather do it backwards. Okay. Put that in there. Now that is the key left in buzzer. That's what that is. There's that. And then our signal light switch. Ooh, my wires are in the way right here. I gotta get these wires tucked in underneath here. There they go. Tuck them in there. Line all that up. These 3 screws back in here. Now's a good time if your signal light switch doesn't work. This would have been a good time to change it out. So get you a new one for it. And this you have to kind of finagle in here.
Make sure it gets seated in there where it's supposed to go. Should be about right there. Put screw in there. Okay. Okay. So this, right? Now this piece, you probably can't see it too well in the camera, but it's got a flat spot here. And then on the shaft over here, it's got a flat spot. So you know exactly where this lines up at. See, it goes in there like that. It compresses that spring. So put this snap ring back to that there. Get your special tool. Okay. Get that down enough. Probably take your flat tip screwdrivers and work it around it. Sometimes I use my fingernail just to hold it, get it started. Sometimes it's a pain to start. There we go. Now it's seated down in there. Back this back off. Okay, let's get the steering wheel. Oh! Feels pretty tight. Put the nut back on. Nope. And then this little washer, little spring washer. And if you look at these plastics, they come out of here and they got a set just right inside this spring washer. So it gives it its springiness when you push on the horn. Okay. Horn button. Okay, now I got to put all this underneath here together. Well, let's get all that back together. Oh. Okay, the camera shut off when I went under here to finish all this up, but sorry. Get all this put back together. Steering wheel is tight. It will have a little bit of a play, just not much. That's just from the, that's me shaking the camera too, but pushing on it pretty hard there. So that's back together. That works really good.
That's back together. Key off. Steering wheel lock works. So that all works. I haven't hooked the battery back up just yet. I'm going to show you what I did out here. All I did out here was take this bolt out right here. And then that allowed that shaft to slide up inside the steering column and come out. Okay, we got this one out of the shop. Steering column is nice and tight now. I like it. Gear shifter is good and tight. That spring helped that out. Got that going. I don't have to worry about the steering column coming apart now and this truck veering off in a ditch. I was getting really concerned about that. But this was more of an informational on taking these apart, fixing these columns and those 4 bolts that are in there. You've seen the struggles I went through getting these bolts done, getting in here and getting this done, and some of the things that just weren't right. Don't be afraid. Start taking stuff apart. You know, there's always informational videos, like I said, when I was doing the tools walk around. So, you know, just start taking it apart. You're never gonna get your project fixed if you don't start on it at some point in time. So, anyways, but I'm glad to have this truck back working, back on the road. It's one of my favorites to drive and drive down this road and go to the parts store and get my parts I need. I'm driving pretty slow right now because of the wind noise, but I'm gonna speed up in a minute and go on down the road. Anyways, I think that'll do it for this video. Like, subscribe, and share. I hope to see you around next time. Join me again on Square Body Resurrections. We got this one out of the grave.